Let's get you the latest with Pakistan opening fire across line of control with India retaliating. This is the latest that we have for you. Breaking news coming in regard to firing that has been reported along the line of control overnight. It was Pakistan that initiated this firing and India responded and retaliated to the firing. There has been exchange of fire along the line of control. This comes really at a time when India doubles down on its decision to indefinitely suspend the Indus Water Treaty. Do remember, India has come up with 7 steps in order to retaliate against these are measures after the attack that took place in Pahalgam. We have our colleague Shiv joining us on the phone line. Shiv joining us live from Kashmir. Shiv, you know, what has happened overnight? You know, we just saw and heard those shots being fired. Is this routine, or is this something that, you know, of course, is going to be looked at more seriously given what really took place on Tuesday after those attacks that took place in Pahalgam?
Divya, you know, small arms fire, speculative firing, exchanges of fire on the line of control are not uncommon, to be very frank. But in the context of them happening, you know, early this morning, I understand they happened around 1 a.m. Is not a small thing at all. I've just gotten off the phone with the army. They've confirmed to me that there was speculative firing from the Pakistan side. It was initiated from the Pakistan side and responded to from the Indian side, which is normal. Only small arms were used. You can hear in the audio that you know, there appear to be some kind of machine guns being used. No mortars, no artillery, no heavy weapons of any kind were employed right now. If things escalate, heavy weapons might come into play. But the context of them happening a day after India has more than made it clear that some kind of major action, possibly military, is in the offing, you know, makes this sort of speculative firing, which is otherwise routine, you know, seem like belligerence or seem like an act of aggression. Remember, Pakistan is also trying to send out a signal. The Pakistan army posts along the line of control will also be, through these you know, small ceasefire violations, trying to send out the message that their military is ready, their military is not cowed down, they're ready for a fight. You know, it's almost like saying, bring it on in a small way. At the tactical level, if you zoom into those posts on the line of control, they're not very far apart. So this kind of firing can, in some ways, lead to casualties, but I can confirm that no casualties have taken place in this particular firing. It lasted only for about 25 minutes, according to my information, in different sectors, including the Lipa Valley Uri sector, which is also significant, Divya, because this is where the Uri surgical strikes took place. One of the strikes happened on launch pads in the Lipa Valley in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and therefore this is important. Another piece of context, of course, is that the army chief is landing in Srinagar today, where I'm reporting from, and therefore every small or routine escalation of this kind assumes much larger proportions because of the context that they're happening in. With everyone on tenterhooks, with the militaries on both sides kind of braced and ready for, you know, perhaps political orders, this is a sensitive time.
Right, absolutely, Shiv. And this also really comes at the time when, you know, Pakistan has gone and made those announcements as well in regard to the Shimla Pact of 1972, which validates the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And of course, the opposition completely backing the government for any action condemning the massacre that took place that claimed 26 lives. Thank you so much, Shiv, for joining us from Srinagar. To know more on this, we also have with us Major General Ashwini Sewach joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking with us. Security analyst there. Sir, you know, there has been an exchange of fire that has been reported. Is this routine, or are we looking more into this given the circumstances?
You know, there is a ceasefire from 2021, February, and by and large, it has been, both the countries have been agreeing to it and also following it. But what is going to happen now? In fact, you know, the series of action which India has taken and thereafter even Pakistan has taken, and the tension is very high on the line of control, then it becomes something serious. Now, the point is, as far as India is concerned, we have already declared that we are going to take revenge to whatever has happened in Pahalgam, where we lost 28 brave hearts. So if you consider that, and then you see in the light what has built up thereafter, we have taken certain diplomatic action, we have taken economic action, and we are now likely to take a military action in time to come, because Prime Minister Modi has already said in no uncertain term, this time whatever action is being taken by India will be very, very robust, and it will hit Pakistan very hard. So therefore, possibly Pakistan is also trying to gear up that certain action which we took, that holding Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, as well as certain other action which we have taken. Basically, Atari, post has been also stopped. Pakistan has also taken certain action like Shimla Agreement. They are not going to follow. Airspace has been denied to India. So I suppose Pakistan also trying to show that they are prepared for any eventuality, and they will also suitably respond in case India takes some action. But all said and done, India has made up its mind very clearly, and India is preparing for a major action. When, where, and what will be caliber, that one can't really say. But then in this time, it will be far, far bigger than what it was after Uri, when we had a ground surgical strike, and after Pulwama, when we had a Balakot, that was an air strike. So this time, possibly, it is going to be very, very solid, and it has to be robust, and possibly both sides are now preparing for that, and even Pakistanis are now returning to a small fire. So to that extent, if you see it, you have to take it slightly seriously.
Absolutely, taking the matter seriously. Of course, after Prime Minister Modi said that India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers who are behind that attack. And of course, thank you so much, sir, for speaking with us here on NDTV. Now, the Sweden ambassador to India spoke exclusively to NDTV's Vishal, my colleague, on the heinous Pahalgam attack. The ambassador has said that terrorism is a global threat and that Sweden is committing is very committed to fight against terrorism. Let's listen in to this very special interview.
We have with us today a special guest, Ambassador of Sweden to India. We'll speak with him and get to know what are the reactions from Europe and rest of the world, and what are people in Europe thinking about the attack that happened in Kashmir. Thanks a lot for speaking with us, Ambassador.
Thank you for having me. We are appalled and we are saddened by the devastating number of lives that were lost on the 22nd of April in this heinous terrorist attack. It actually serves as a reminder to all of us. I think that the threat from terrorism, that is global, of course, that is a threat to peace, to security, and to humanity. And that was shown on the 22nd of April in Kashmir.
So when it comes to hunting down the terrorists and stuff like that, many countries have extended their helping hand. Will there be some cooperation between India and Sweden on that level? If not, what kind of cooperation can India look forward to from its European partners?
Very early on, when these horrible news reached us, the first thing we do, of course, at such a moment is our thoughts go to the families of the victims. Our thoughts go to the people of India and to the government of India. And we showed our solidarity with India at this very, very difficult time. At the same time, our Prime Minister, in his statement on this occasion, said that Sweden remains committed to support all global efforts against terrorism in all its forms. So I think that there is a necessity at moments like this that we join forces, and that this is a global phenomenon. It's a phenomenon without borders, and we need to really join our forces together when these things happen.
Lastly, Ambassador, I would like to ask you is, how does Sweden assess the role of some regional factors in Kashmir? There are many factions in Kashmir. What does Sweden think about them?
I'm not in a position to judge that. I think that there will now be investigation into this horrific incident that happened, and then the findings of those investigations has to be analyzed. Again, I'm representing my country here. I'm here to support India at this very difficult moment. But what are the background of this? What will be the consequences of this? That's up to the experts and to those closely involved to judge.
And with that, we're slipping to a short break. Back with a whole lot more on the other side. To stay with us.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
You've been nominated several times for the Grammys, but what it's been like the last 25 years? Because, music is also a fairly competitive field. It's, of course, the search to find your identity is there. You want to do that. You want to probably isolate yourself from the noise. But at the end of the day, the arts as a field is also a very competitive space, isn't it?
I didn't go into music to become an artist. I'd never imagined I'd make an album. That wasn't why I went into music. I went to music to sing. You know what I would do when I started singing? I became a music beggar. I truly would. I heard, for the very first time, I heard Pandit Jasraj sing. And I heard him, I was sitting in the first row because I was a patron of this arts organization. I didn't know who he was. I never heard Hindustani music. I'd been in Brazilian, Carnatic, all of that, but never much with Hindustani. I sat in the first row, and then he started singing. And then for the next...
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Welcome back. Let's get you more international news, and this in regard to US President Donald Trump, who's claimed that fresh trade talks were held with China on Thursday, despite Beijing firmly denying any such negotiations. Now, Trump told reporters that meeting took place earlier in the day, sparking confusion after China's Commerce Ministry dismissed those claims and calling them absolutely baseless. Tensions between the world's two largest economies remains high, with tariffs on both sides soaring to as much as 145%. The IMF has urged both nations to resolve their differences quickly, warning that the escalation, as far as this escalating trade war is concerned, is driving global economic uncertainty. That is what the IMF chief had to say, that a settlement is essential as the current volatility. We're talking about the volatility that is stifling investment, weakening growth, and also alarming governments worldwide. And US President Donald Trump has expressed rare public frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying he's not happy with the deadly strike that took place in Kiev that killed at least 12 people overnight. Now, Trump has gone on to say it was absolutely unnecessary, urged Putin to stop, saying that the timing was very bad. He also went on to say that 5,000 soldiers are dying every week. Let's get the peace deal done. That is the message that he put out, while, not really talking about any kind of action that would be taken against Putin. So this really comes at a time when Trump went on to say that it seems like Russia is ready for a peace deal with Ukraine. But the strikes mark the deadliest assault on the Ukraine capital, we're talking about Kyiv, in months, and has also come amid growing pressure on Ukraine to accept land concessions in a potential peace deal. To know more on this, let's just get in our guest who's joining us this morning, Robert Moran. Thank you so much for speaking with us on NDTV. Well, Trump's message to Putin comes a day after the American president said he believed Russia is ready for a peace deal with Ukraine, but has asked Putin to stop, which really wasn't on expected lines, given the fact how the meeting with Zelensky went, and of course, the siding of Trump that was seen with the Russian side. And now, of course, putting out this message, really putting it out in loud and clear terms that 5,000 soldiers are dying every week and asking Putin to stop. What does this really mean?
So what's happening here is that the Trump administration wants to pivot the American military towards a much stronger posture in Asia relative to China. They want to wind down this war in Ukraine, and the president ran on ending the war in Ukraine. The problem that the president has, and he's in a tough spot, is that Putin wants to push as much as he can on the battlefield to get the strongest concessions possible for a final deal. The challenge here is that at some level, the Americans probably needed to escalate in order to get Putin to the table to an advantageous deal. They have not done that, and so now they're in this awkward position of telling him to stop, but it's not necessarily in Putin's best interest to stop, because he wants to try to gain as much ground, as much leverage as possible in negotiations. And this has always been the challenge in terms of trying to end the war, which is, in order to get the Russians to the table, you have to essentially, the West needs to escalate and make it as painful as possible. And Trump tried to get a deal by coaxing Putin into the process, but Putin understands one thing. He understands power. And so that's where we are right now.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning in India to get us what this really means, given the fact that it did seem like Trump was running out of patience, but it seems to be a strategy in place. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Now, staying with news of Donald Trump, he's set to give an interview to The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, the journalist who broke the Signal Gate scandal last month. Trump confirmed the meeting on his Truth Social account, calling the interview a personal competition to see whether The Atlantic is capable of being, in his words, truthful. The interview follows a wave of tension after Goldberg exposed leaked Signal messages involving top White House officials discussing military strategies, despite previously calling Goldberg a sleazebag and the magazine failing, while Trump now says the story will be titled the most consequential president of the century. In other news, the Israeli military has admitted that its forces were responsible for the death of a United Nations staff member in Gaza. First, they had gone on to deny, do remember, initially accusing UN of baseless slander. The incident took place on the 19th of March when tank fire struck a UN guest house in Dar al-Bala, killing the UN aide. He was helping provide essential aid to the population in Gaza. Let's get you news coming in from Canada, and it's Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney who has confirmed that US President Donald Trump raised the idea of making Canada the 51st state during a phone call that took place in March on the 28th. Trump, well, that is what Carney said, that he did bring it up all the time. But of course, what was really made clear to the US president was that it'll never happen. It's absolutely impossible. The revelation comes just days ahead of elections that are going to be taking place in Canada, where Trump's trade war and repeated annexation comments have become key issues. The US president has imposed 25% tariffs on Canadian-made cars and reintroduced duties. These are duties on steel as well as aluminium, fueling economic anxiety. And this really comes at a time when elections are really around the corner, taking place on Monday, despite claiming, these are basically Trump's influence that's looming large over the race. Both Carney and the Conservative leader have promised to stand firm against the pressure that the United States seems to be throwing its way. Now, more than 7 million Canadians have already voted early, with polls showing a tight race between the two leading parties. But this revelation coming out just ahead of the elections, with Mark Carney saying that he hasn't agreed to those terms. In fact, he said it in a loud and clear message that that is absolutely impossible, that Canada would become the 51st state of the United States, something that kept coming up in a conversation that he had with US President Donald Trump on the 28th of March. So, of course, to get you more details on what this really means in terms of elections that are coming up just on Monday. Of course, Carney also said the president said a lot of things, but the essence of the discussion and where we moved the conversation to exactly is what he really ended up saying was that he said that this was never going to happen. This was absolutely impossible, and that is the revelation that he's gone ahead and made. So, of course, Carney, they're saying that we had discussions as sovereign nations. We agreed as sovereign nations that these negotiations will begin after elections take place. But of course, point blank, he went on to tell Donald Trump that Canada is not going to become a part of the United States. It's not going to become its 51st state. My colleague Maha Siddiqui joining us from Vancouver to get us the very latest when it comes to the elections that are going to take place in Canada on Monday. But before that, this is a revelation that's come about. Mark Carney there perhaps trying to win some brownie points before elections. But we do know that 7 million Canadians have already cast their vote.
Yes, absolutely, Divya. And much of the narrative around Mark Carney has been built around the fact that he is one person who can take on US President Donald Trump in a firm manner. And this revelation that Donald Trump did bring up the 51st state matter with Mark Carney can go either way for him, though his office was quick to clarify and reveal for the first time that that issue was brought up, and that he did say that never has Canada thought of this, never will this ever be an issue on the table between US and Canada. So his office has clarified that he took a firm stand on the matter and only then continued his conversation with the US President Donald Trump. But this revelation was not made even by US President Donald Trump in his statement about the phone conversation on the 28th of March between Mark Carney and himself, in which he showed a respect for the office of the Prime Minister of Canada, because remember, before that he had been referring to the Canadian Prime Minister's position as the Governor of Canada, and there was no mention of the 51st state of as well. So this is one of the crucial aspects now that has come to the fore. However, Mark Carney's office has been clarifying that he took a firm stand on the matter, Divya.
Right. Thank you so much, Maha, for joining us with those details from Vancouver. We will keep tracking the elections coming up in Canada on Monday. We will keep coming back to you for more on that. Moving on now, let's get you news coming in from, this is in regard to France. A teenager has died and 3 others have been injured following a stabbing that took place at a private school. Authorities have said that the suspect, reportedly another student, was restrained by a teacher and arrested at the scene. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of NDTV World. We'll be back tomorrow with a whole lot more. Thank you so much for watching.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
You've been nominated several times for the Grammys, but what it's been like the last 25 years? Because, music is also a fairly competitive field. It's, of course, the search to find your identity is there. You want to do that. You want to probably isolate yourself from the noise. But at the end of the day, the arts as a field is also a very competitive space, isn't it?
I didn't go into music to become an artist. I'd never imagined I'd make an album. That wasn't why I went into music. I went to music to sing. You know what I would do when I started singing? I became a music beggar. I truly would. I heard for the very first time.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello everyone, welcome to Breakfast Show. My name is Radhika Ramaswamy. Post the horrific attacks in Pahalgam, an exchange of fire has been reported across LOC. Indian Army Chief is to visit Srinagar today, and several key decisions taken by government to isolate Pakistan. And on the ground, we have Shivarur and Nazir Masoodi bringing you a 360-degree coverage from the valley on the aftermath of the attacks. First, let's go to the headlines. Pakistan provokes exchange of